Hello and welcome back to Dan Checkman's cookbook reviews. So I've been going through the great chefs of New Orleans, and I apologize. I've been on hiatus for the past few months, but I've been going through two of these books. I've got it's going to be backwards. Anyways, Great Chefs of New Orleans, and the sequel, Great Chefs of New Orleans 2. Most of them have the same chefs in them. And for this latest version, I basically I'm starting to I think I ended with Roland Hewitt from Christians, if I remember correctly. Let's just double check. Yep, Roland Hewitt. That was the last one that I did, almost a year ago. And I actually did cook my way through the rest of it, but I did not record it. So, I'm doing it again. And the next chef in the book, this is where they start to differ, where the two books start to differ, is Pierre Lacoste. Okay? So first, a bit about the chef himself. All right, Pierre Lacoste was born in 1941. He grew up in a French Creole family in Louisiana. Spent his summers in France. Came back, finished school, and then started working his way up through French Quarter restaurants, and opened Maison Pierre, the restaurant that he basically ran for about 20 years, in 1974. I can't read that. Oh no, in 1985, something like that. Great Chefs was starting on the show, and basically they came in and interviewed him. In 1994, the restaurant was sold, and it eventually became Biona, which is run by Susan Spicer still. He retired, moved to Pensacola, and died in 2003. So didn't live very long. And so that's a little bit about the chef, a little bit about the restaurant. This is more interesting, I think. This is from Tom Fitzmaurice about extinct New Orleans restaurants. She says the restaurant was open until 1995. The Fortune of New Orleans, this is a good article. The Fortune of New Orleans were on an upswing in the late 1970s. Restaurants answered the new baby boom's affluence with some uncommonly grand, expensive menu restaurants. These went well beyond the unstudied, comfortable dressiness of the old-line dining institutions like Antoine's and Galatoire's. The mainstream dining public was still dominated by the tastes of their parents, who had a taste for formality. Formality was soon to become characterized as pretension, but it hadn't happened yet. So, the few restaurants that decided to push service and grandeur to new heights attracted a certain number of loyal customers who enjoyed the ceremony and specialness. The restaurant property that is now Bayona, as I said, was for 2 decades ruled by a doctrinate French chef named Pierre Lacoste. His dining room had the over-the-top decoration of La Belle Epoque. Every reference in the place was to some vaunted French institution, with the suggestions that it should be revered. They should be revered in hushed tones. In the 1970s, hardly a restaurant in town could match it for gilding. The dining room was orchestrated by Pierre's wife. In contrast to the pompous chef, so Tom Fitzmaurice clearly did not like Pierre Lacoste very much as a person. Madame Pierre, that was how she introduced herself, was a lovely, hospitable, smiling lady. While she made it clear that you were about to be escorted through a dining, what does this say here? Through a dining experience in which you were required to put your petty preferences aside and allow the particular magic of Maison Pierre to dictate all. She was so pleasant that she made you want to go along with the program. That's cool. Maison Pierre was the first restaurant where I was ever served what we now call an amuse-bouche, and an intermezzo, which was a sorbet, or a post-dessert bonbon. It was the first restaurant in which the waiter presented the cork from the wine bottle to inspect. Sniff to make sure it's not rotten, he said. It was the first restaurant that had several shapes of wine glasses for different kinds of wine. None of this was due to my naivete. None of these things could be found in regular service anywhere else at the time. In an article I wrote in New Orleans Magazine in 1975, I described a dinner that had 9 courses in a time when the chef's tasting menu was unheard of. No other restaurant offered anything like that either, except perhaps for gourmet society dinners. Certainly not a la carte. Everything was heavy French. The dinner started with oysters, moved to consomme, followed by a fish course that was said to be rouget. That's a French mullet. And in retrospect, I wonder whether it was really, whether it really was. I wasn't yet knowledgeable enough to tell fish species apart. My suspicion now is fueled by Chef Pierre's practice in later years of using a good deal of catfish. I remember the entree vividly. It was prime rib. But said Madame Pierre, the chef, he cooks it on one side only. So the juices and aroma rise to the top. Surely you will like it medium rare. I will add fresh horseradish. That really was as good as advertised. At the end of the meal, Madame Pierre brought some of the after dinner drink and what she called bonbons, which I remember as chocolate truffles. By then, I'd had the pants charmed off of me. They didn't know who I was or what I was doing because at that time he was completely anonymous. The check came to $84, real money, 1975. I wrote a glowing article about this a glowing article about this enchanted evening in tandem with a similar review of Louis XVI. Maison Pierre would never be as good as the version I described at that time. Every time I sampled it again, I was more puzzled by why I liked it so much the first time. By the last time I went, it all seemed like sleight of hand. The catfish, among other things, shattered the illusion. Maison Pierre closed in the 1990s to be replaced by Tories, operated by Lee LaRuth. We talked about LaRuth's before, who had by then taken over LaRuth's, his father's spectacular restaurant in Gretna. That didn't last long. Then it became Bayona, and that's what it is now. Chef Pierre has since passed away, and his restaurant's forgotten, except by the few whose idea of a great dinner called for its being ritualistic. Okay, so that was Chef Pierre, apparently a pompous chef. I didn't realize that part. And Maison Pierre, which again is now Bayona. I've been there several times. Okay, now for the recipe I chose, and I didn't find it. Just really quickly, I did not find it to be heavy at all. French in style, yes, but not heavy. It was a Redfish Mousqetaire. Okay. So I actually used mahi mahi because I couldn't find redfish in the store recently, but that's beside the point. Anyways, it basically calls for poaching the fish in a seasoned bath. Basically, it's very simple to prepare. Took maybe, honestly, the whole thing took 45 minutes to put together from end to end. The Mousqetaire is it's literally means musketeer, but it is a French sauce that's essentially a homemade mayonnaise with some chopped up greens added to it. So in this case, it had parsley and green onions added to it. So very simple sauce. It's basically egg yolks and olive oil. Otherwise, with a little bit of salt and pepper, pinch of cayenne, and there is a little bit of beef stock in it too. So, but that's really about it. And as I said, I did not find it to be heavy at all. This was the second time I made it. The first time I made it was, again, I couldn't find redfish, and I think I used some barramundi that I had. But I think the mahi mahi worked out better. Again, I actually found it to be pretty light. And it was tasty. I mean, there wasn't anything. Actually, it wasn't all that fancy, really. So that's really about it for Pierre Lacoste and Maison Pierre. For the next chef, I'm going to continue in this book, which is the first book, but start preparing a recipe in the second book for the next chef in the second book at the same time. So stay tuned. I'll be back with more of that soon enough. All right. Bye-bye.